Neville, I'm really, really sorry about this.
You're a little scary sometimes.
This Warframe changes everything. Welcome to the Dante level cap build that makes not only you, but your entire team practically immortal. This build revolves around using him more to buff your attacks and survivability, rather than using him for his nuking skill, as it starts to fall off at very high levels without a lot more setup. So let's start from the top. The first ability we are using in this build puts our support potential exponentially higher than the original skill. With Pillage, we can fully strip entire rooms of their shield and armor, while also replenishing shields and cleansing status effects of the whole team. As seen in the clip, it can hit pretty far in this build. His next three skills are his verses. In a nutshell, his first verse grants overguard on cast as well as iframes, and his second verse does AoE/damage. His third verse is a combination verse that can ultimately cast different skills based on the order of the two previous skills. This build focuses on all of the combinations except the second one, which is his dark verse and is used as his nuking skill. Instead, we want to focus on keeping the buffs from the other three verses and making sure we apply them to our teammates. These buffs consist of overguard on kill or assists, a flying companion that we are using as another source of priming, and 3 birds that will stagger enemies while doing some slash damage and also multiplicatively increasing our status chance. Oh, and our book companion can further increase our status chance thanks to Dante's passive. Now, onto the mods. The arcanes of choice here are Molt Augmented to push Pillage to enough strength for a full strip, and Molt Efficiency, which is a personal choice as I don't like having to cast all of his buffs very often. Corrosive Projection is also a must in this build to allow Pillage to strip at 328 strength instead of 400. The rest of the build focuses on a few strength mods, a good energy economy due to him being a spammy frame, and some duration and range for our buffs. I also threw in natural talent to help get off Dante's combinations a bit faster, but it's ultimately up to you if you want to get cast speed only from your shards instead. Speaking of shards, here is what we are using. Since I'm lacking Taos, I need to use 3 strength shards to push my strength to just enough for Pillage. However, the remaining shards are very flexible. I'm using a bit more cast speed and some duration, but feel free to use what you'd like here. Now on to the weapons. Starting with our book companion, we are using it as a primer mainly for condition overload, since I used more of a melee-focused build, but also for galvanized mods as well if you're running more of a gun build. Feel free to experiment with the elements you choose to run, but this worked out well for me. Next up is the melee. If you don't plan on using melee for damage, feel free to use Praetos Incarnon since it has a passive movement speed upgrade. As for hate itself, we went with a viral build since we are using strip and don't need to rely on the slash procs, especially since we have slash from the stance. You can replace the Riven here for a Bane mod or some other form of damage if you want to use it more for Thrax. The secondary of choice here is Kuva Nukor, or really any good primer works, but it's to help us get instant 10 stacks of viral. I also went with Dexterity Arcanes on the secondary and primary for more combo duration, but that comes down to preference in this build. However, if you want gun options, consider Latum or Dualtox Incarnon, as they are both some of the highest damage secondaries in the game. Finally, we have the primary. I chose to use Aphentis since I was only using melee and a primer, and it has a unique ability to boost the fire rate of yours and your teammates' weapons, which also accounts for melee attack speed when you get a kill in the thrown spear's ring. I have it modded for fire rate to throw the spear as fast as possible, since it's not doing any damage or statuses for me. Here's a demonstration of the ring you get a kill in to get the buff. Oh, and can't forget the companion. This build is using Nautilus since it helps a ton with grouping through its cordon skill. Dante really wants grouping to keep his kills per second high so that his overguard stays regenerating. Pair this with Manifold Bond to reduce the cooldown of cordon, and you have non-stop grouping and mass destruction. The other important mod is Tenacious Bond, due to the passive 1.2x crit multiplier for simply having 50% crit chance on our companion gun. However, the damage of most companion guns is actually pretty irrelevant, especially the few that can hit over 50% crit. So I don't even mod my Sentinel to shoot, and instead, just use the gun to activate Tenacious Bond through critical delay. The Vigilante mods here are here in case I use a gun with Vigilante supplies on it to give myself the full set bonus. Well, that's the end of the video, guys. Thanks a ton for watching. Drop a like and sub if you guys enjoyed, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments as I respond to all of them. I'm also live very frequently over on Twitch, which I'll leave in the description.